Welcome back to the Reload podcast. My name is Marshall Scott, joined by Nathan Gilsleider tonight. Justin is somewhere in the Caribbean, toes in the water, drinking a margarita. Little early September vacay. So it'll just be us tonight. The quality of everything is probably way down that Justin's gone in terms of did I successfully add the intro before putting on the YouTube video? I don't know, listeners, you'll know that by now. Did I get this on Spotify? I think that I've figured it out, but you guys will know that I guess before I do right now too. Nathan, how you been these last couple of days?
Yeah, man, I've been good. I think everyone's about to find out real quick Justin's contributions to the show.
Oh yeah,
right. All the polish and the little things that he does to make it nice. So we miss you. Ready for you to come back, Justin. But I've been good, man. Just getting excited day by day, and football's here, so it's fun. NFL starts tomorrow night. This is the season we all wait for, so I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, I mentioned, did I get the intro on the pod? Did we get it on Spotify? Hopefully, you guys are listening to this pod at all. Hopefully, this pod made it out in general. So the Cowboys are going to Oregon this week. Easy cupcake game on the schedule for the Pokes.
Yeah.
Nathan, what do you want to see from Zane in this first start? It'll be his first start since like November 2022, whenever he's a high schooler.
Yeah, that's correct, but it is year 3. So I do have expectations of him being able. The biggest thing is him being able to get the offense in and out, right? That's what you want to see. You don't want to see a lot of pre-snap, a lot of like overwhelmed. This is an Autzen Stadium, while numbers-wise is very similar to Boone Pickens, right around 60,000 max capacity, give or take. This is his first true road game, getting there. Getting his guys lined up, a whole game plan on himself. So that's a lot, but I have big expectations for him. I want to see his talent, his arm talent that we all know he has, shine through, and really a game plan that sets him up to succeed. We saw oftentimes over the last couple seasons, especially last season, where we just didn't really feel like the game plan was there for the young quarterbacks to succeed at all. The most recent one, I think everyone probably feels the same way, is the Milwaukee Smith game in Colorado, right? You see him do something really nice against Tech. Tech was pretty bad last year, a defense. But then to go into Colorado and say, hey man, let's single out, the Heisman Trophy winner and go right at him and see if that works. Like that was just a no win situation. So I'm excited to see this new staff. Some of the things that we obviously didn't see in the first game, and really put him in a position to succeed.
Yeah, and that's something that I asked Gundy, like what's going to be important for Zane this week, and he mentioned almost right off the top, like that the coaching staff needs to get him in a position in what he does best. I think we'll get in this little bit later in a question from the chamber, but I think to me that sort of said like, hey, the game one game plan was sort of centered around Haas. So let's have a week of this is all Zane right now. So I think that'll be important. And then Gundy also said, he needs to be aggressive, to not look over his shoulder, to just go out there and sling it. So, I was at that first Mason Rudolph game in 2014 when I think Garmin got concussed. Mm-hmm. And it just, after watching, I was in the band that year. So any road trip I went on, because they didn't always take the whole band, but I was the kid that like enjoyed football. So they were like, do you want to go? I was like, absolutely. But that 2014 game, you could just, after watching that 2014 team all do all those struggles, whenever, Rudolph came in the game and was slinging around the field, you're like, holy crap, this is an actual offense. So I'm hoping to have something a little bit similar when we were saying up in Oregon.
Oh, absolutely. Cause I think, we talked about it a little bit last week, like I don't know if I'm young enough to be able to say this, but there was an aura that Haas brought with him to that game, right? In his offense fed off it, and in his ability to make the extra play, which you need dudes, man. You need guys that can make those plays off schedule. That's the game of football. So, it's getting him in a rhythm and really feeling his confidence, right? You want to feel Zane's confidence and his belief in himself, and his teammates believe in him too. That's kind of, you can see it. And to your point, right? You saw that when Mason came in. You've seen it through the years on some of our more successful quarterbacks when they're in there and what they're able to do. But also I think a lot of that is coaches being able to like, hey, let's get lots of motion. Let's get a run game established, whether that's through, wide receiver stretches, straight up the middle with our running backs, zone plays, whatever we're going to do here, even the extension of the run game with those quick, easy passes, which you saw him throw a lot towards the second half of that UT Martin game, trying to get him going. You need to see that. You need to see his confidence grow. And, because you're going to talk about it in a second, but, Haas isn't coming back next week. So this is Zane's opportunity that he's been waiting for 2 years. And I'm sure he knows this, but anybody that's ever gone through anything like that, you realize that these opportunities are fleeting. And this may be his one chance to cement himself as a starting quarterback in Division I football. And so he needs to take advantage of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Something else that Gundy discussed maybe didn't set well on the ears of the Oregon faithful. I've got the quote pulled up here. So initially, whenever Gundy was just asked general question about Oregon, this is what he said. He said, they're a good football team. Oregon is playing really well. I think they're well coached. So there's 4 sentences right off the bat that mention nothing about money. But then he says they're spending a lot of money, which is true.
Fact number one.
They've put a lot into that organization, and you can see they're a good football team. So in all of that, money was very lightly mentioned. He did go on to his radio show later, and him and Dave were maybe more so talking about the state of college football and what's going on with college football. So money got brought up a little bit more. He did mention that they're gonna have to pay the quarterback a lot of money to keep him around, which again, probably also true. Yeah, probably also true. So then Lanning does his media availabilities Monday night. So Gundy talked Monday at noon. Then his radio show, I think it's at like 5:36. So that's whenever that happened. And then Lanning came after that. And by now I'm sure that you guys have seen the comments or seen what he sort of said. Like they both, I guess, told the truth, but I don't get why either of them would be mad at the other. You know what I mean?
100%.
I think Lanning I think maybe Oregon is a team that doesn't have a lot of maybe bulletin board material going into this game, and maybe they're just somewhat manufacturing this because like I said, I just don't know where Gundy said anything out of line, I guess.
No, and I'm a huge fan of Coach Lanning, what he's done, what he's been able to do. Goodness, I mean, if anybody watched Alabama last week, it's not as easy as just throwing money at something and winning, right? I mean, and so I understand that Oregon is very sensitive and their fans are very sensitive because people have been saying that forever, right? Since Phil Knight's been giving them money and now the NIL is legal, right? I mean, he's given them a lot. Guys, that's amazing. That's what everybody wants. You're like one of 10 programs in the country that can do this. So it's like almost like a sensitivity, and it just prickled right up. And in Coach Lanning's defense, I listened to his whole conference. Like he got set up with that question without ever hearing Coach Gundy's context. In the way that he set it up would probably irritated me too, but that's not what Coach Gundy was saying. And quite honestly, I don't think either coach has thought about it since. But I think with a game that's reached 28.5 points now in the spread, they're just looking for something to talk about, and this is kind of it. But I mean, it kind of makes me chuckle because I've seen it now with Alabama, and then now with Oregon. It's like if you've got the money, like you pump your chest out, and then when somebody like brings up the money, then you're like, oh well, we didn't spend $40 million, we only spent 25 on last year's roster. And it's like, okay, like what are we even doing here? Like if we could spend 25, I'd be talking about it too. So for me, it's like a big nothing. I honestly think they both really respect each other. I think Coach Lanning understands probably more than most what Coach Gundy has been able to do with less and the amount of success that he's had. It's pretty amazing what it's turned into, but I think Coach Gundy's the king of full context quotes. Like, I don't know how he continually does it. I don't know if it's like the cadence in which he speaks or how he kind of goes off on tangents. But if you were to take 30 seconds before or 30 seconds after almost all of his big quotes, they're pretty much nothing but factual statements. He never said that non-conference should be dictated by money. Now, you may infer that, But he literally said, I've heard from several coaches that, but you clip that part out, and now it sounds like he's, calling out the lessers. And he's just not. But I get it. But I I'm envious of Oregon and what they have and what they can do. And we're unfortunate that our money that was given is not tied up in a way that we can't use it for NIL. And before that, when it was an arms race for new stadiums and new digs, that was the most important thing at the time, and that's what T Boone did, and it was unbelievably beneficial. But unfortunately, he passed away about a decade early, and we're scraping the barrel right now, trying to figure out what we can do as a university.
Yeah, the line "we spend to win," some people save to have an excuse for why they don't. It sounds like a bar, but it's also like you guys don't just have Phil Knight sitting around
Yeah.
no, not people. They're not.
Yeah, that's where the sensitivity came to me, right? Like that's kind of like, hey, whoa, like what's going on here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I'm glad. I think we're on the same page there. A bit of a nothing burger, maybe providing Oregon some sort of manufactured bulletin board material.
I imagine they need it.
Yeah, and honestly, I doubt those players really care that much either. They're like, oh, I am getting paid. Yes,
absolutely.
So injury update. You mentioned right off the top. Tyler Waldrop did a great story. It's in the chamber. Sign up link. 25% off in the description of this video. But he talked with Hosseini's dad this week. It's a Jones fracture. I think he's seen two doctors. One said like best case scenario. I want to get this right. I think it was 6 weeks, and the other said 8. So that's again best case scenario. Who knows what the season's looking like by then? Who knows what's going on with St. Flores by then? So that's surely the initial thing. There's a lot more from quotes from Haas's dad in the chamber. You guys should all go read. Nathan, after reading that, do you have any takeaways from that?
No, I mean, initially when you first coming out, it's like all of a sudden you hear this like 5 week, and in my line of work and things that I know and injuries I've gone through myself, I was like 5, like that's. I mean, you're talking about it. That's like a hairline, and you don't need anything done, and you can put like get like a molded insert for your shoe, and but the Jones fractures on the outside. Most Oklahoma faithful know it because that was the fracture that KD had in his foot. It's a little bit different for a man his size and the things that go on in that area, being older, yada yada yada. So this is absolute best case scenario. Like throw him in a hyperbaric chamber. Hope everything goes perfect. Usually you just throw one screw into it because I don't want to get in the weeds, but there's not a whole lot of blood flow towards that part of your foot and those bones. So it usually is a slower healing bone. And so usually you put a screw in it and then you put PRP on top of it and you do everything you can to get blood flow in there and hope for the best. And that's really where you're at. I mean, he's going to be in a cast for what? I think I said 2 weeks, and then you go from there. So, I mean, we obviously all hope for the best, but you also want 100% Haas, because if he's not able to do what we saw in that one quarter, and then, you don't want a lesser version of him because he doesn't have very many opportunities either, right? That's his first chance to get out there. So, basically is kind of what I thought, but it was, like you said, there's way more in depth on PFB Plus. It's a great article, really gives you an insight on kind of where he's at mentally, how much he cares, those type of things. I thought it was awesome. It was really well done by Tyler.
Absolutely. Gundy gave a little. We sort of softened him up throughout the press conference. And then asked injury questions there at the end, and he gave us a little bit. It sounds like Deshaun Brown's going to be out for an extended period of time, which is not ideal. Obviously, at a Choctaw, big-bodied defensive end. I think he's a redshirt junior this year. Kason Carpenter and Rodney Fields, it sort of sounded like both questionable for this Oregon game. With Carpenter, he said it's not a long-term thing, but he also didn't say that he'd be back this week. And then the Field stuff from the pre-Oregon game, and Dave sort of talking about it. It sounds like more so a questionable a when, not if sort of thing. So not sure that if we'll see either of those two in Oregon, but it sounds a lot more promising than Deshaun Brown.
Yeah, I think out of those two, I think Fields is somebody that we really, really need, right? You need that guy's got a little bit of juice, and right now the offensive line needs just a little bit of help. let's make somebody miss. Let's make the offensive line look good, get some confidence up. And Fields has that. I think Hicks has that as well, but definitely that's Fields' strength. We saw that in short bursts, especially towards the end of last season, what he can do in open field. So that's
Yeah.
something we really need.
And we sort of talked about it last week. Sessi sort of looked like the best running back in that UT Martin game, and I sort of wondered, is it because he's got a little bit of wiggle to him, or does that maybe benefit this offensive line in particular a little bit? So, yeah, that's something that we're looking to see. Wendell Gregory, obviously not ideal news to have a guy get 3 sacks on a Thursday and arrested on a Saturday. But it was for something that happened in May. It got booked on Saturday for some reason. Gundy says they're going on as usual, and then we'd know if anything changed from that. So it sort of sounded like this is something that maybe got taken care of over the summer. Gundy had mentioned during his first press conference that they'd had maybe some summer discipline issues that he wasn't used to, just because all these new guys are here and they're learning the culture. So I think the hope is that was one of those things that's already been taken care of for the most part, and it's sort of moving on down the road. Not an ideal spot to be in, but it is where Oklahoma State is right now.
Well, it honestly is one of those things too. Is like as a fan base, it was like, okay, we just realized Haas is down. And it's like, hey, we got one bright spot, this kid off the edge, and it's like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like, but also, to me, this is kind of one of those things that I think Gundy, unless it's something really big, something that you're truly endangering others, or you're doing these things like, hey, man, you're getting paid to play football now. And if, there's certain things that he probably wouldn't have let fly in the past, I'm wondering, just honestly, this is just me openly wondering, like, is this kind of one of those things like kind of changing maybe a little bit? I don't know. And I mean, we've seen in the past where guys have had issues over the summer. They missed like the first half of the game or whatever it may be. But obviously, this is not ideal. But glad to hear that he's traveling, and I think the plan is for him to no issues go out there and wreak havoc. Hopefully.
Absolutely. This is one of those things that Justin usually does. It's time for a word from our sponsor. We'll see if I can read live.
You got this.
The Reload podcast is brought to you by Brewster Consulting Group. Do any of these sound familiar at your company? Our processes are manual and inefficient with no documentation. Our data reporting takes forever and isn't accurate. We hear all the hype about AI, but have no clue what it actually means for our business, or our projects always run over time and over budget. If so, talk with our friends at Brewster Consulting Group. They help build organizations that run like well-oiled machines with clear processes, reliable data and reporting, and technology that works for you. Their team of 6 Sigma Black Belts, PMP certified project managers, and seasoned data engineers have delivered solutions that are built to last for local clients like the Tulsa International Airport and Medify. They've also delivered solutions for large international enterprises like DP World. Even better, Brewster was founded and is run by a proud OSU alum and season ticket holder. Learn more about them at www.brewsterconsulting.com, or learn more about their methodologies by connecting with them at Brewster Consulting Group on LinkedIn and Facebook. All right, so this is just the second time. Yeah, big ups on my reading material, my reading ability. This marks just the second time that Oklahoma State and Oregon have met on a football field, with the other being the 2008 Holiday Bowl. Nathan, I believe you know a little bit about that bowl. I think you were on the team back then.
Yeah, that was my first bowl game, and that the first thing that comes to mind when I think about that is Des Bryant setting the receiving record by halftime. I mean, he was a man amongst boys in that game, and I think you wrote about it on the site, and some of that was just like I kind of like closed my eyes and it's like, oh yeah, that was awesome. It was a cold night. It was right there in San Diego at the Holiday Bowl, and it's funny because I think if I remember correctly, Pettigrew was playing through a high ankle sprain. Des Bryant, we put him out there essentially as a dummy because he was shot after he slipped and tweaked his ankle, I believe. And there's a couple other guys. Zach was still banged up towards the end of the year. Shoulder wasn't healthy. But every single person played, which is like mind blown for people today in bowl games. It was a meaningless bowl game outside of it was a big one for us at the time to go against a Pac-12 team like that. And I still have nightmares of Jeremiah Masoli just absolutely trucking our defense in the third quarter. If Des Bryant is healthy, that game is not a contest. But they wore our defense down, and he was an absolute unit. I think you say he's still playing in Canada.
Yeah, last I checked today, and it said he was for maybe what are they called? The All Blacks, the Red Blacks. I think the Red Blacks is where he's at right now. But yeah, that was I went and watched the game today. I'd seen it whenever it happened, but it obviously been a little bit. But yeah, the Des Bryant stuff was crazy. He gets injured with I think like 4 minutes left in the half.
13 catches.
Yeah, and then he comes back. Yeah. And like the broadcast is basically talking about him like he's dead. They're like, all right, well, it was fun to watch Des Bryant while we could. He comes back and he's still making catches in the second half while like literally dragging his leg behind him. It was the craziest thing ever. You mentioned, tough guys playing in a quote unquote meaningless bowl game where like he had many options to get out of that bowl game.
Yeah.
And even with like 2 minutes left, Oklahoma State's on the goal line and they throw Des out there and he's solely a decoy at this point. They just needed a guy out of the box so that Robinson can do a couple of quarterback sneaks to get in the end zone. But yeah, that was the part that stood out. Obviously, Mazzoli was just ridiculous. He was like a bowling ball. He just he's got a low center of gravity. He's like 5'10", 220 or something like that.
Yeah.
So that was crazy. And then the Des Bryant stuff was just like otherworldly that a human could look as good as he did despite not having a leg.
Yeah, I think that's just one of those games of a reminder of what a truly special football player in college Des Bryant was. I mean, I still think like I love Justin Blackman, and I think he probably had the best college season by even 2-year span of ever. I think that's a reasonably arguable. But Des Bryant is still the most physically gifted, in my opinion. I mean, I know some of the older will even say Hartleek Dykes, but for my money, Des Bryant dominated kick, punt returns. He did it all, man. And that Oregon game was one of those ones that you just sat back and you're just like, just go let Des do everything.
Yeah, you think of the modern punt returner, and it's like a 5'8", 180-pound dude standing back there, and Des is like 6'2", 220. Like,
that's right.
Fielding punts, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yep.
I've got a fun Oregon story. It wasn't on the Holiday Bowl team. It is actually 2 years prior. So do you remember that game that Oregon beat OU? It involved an onside kick.
Yes. Yeah. They were talking about that today on the radio.
So I went back and looked. It was 2 days after my birthday. It was either like 11th or 12th birthday. So it was a Saturday. So my family is taking me out and like, hey, this is your birthday thing. Where do you want to eat? Yada, yada, yada. We're eating at Ishan's, classic Oklahoma staple. This story couldn't get more Oklahoman than it is.
That's right.
And I am a Green Bay Packers fan and owner. Sorry, Cowboys fans. Michael Parsons is on my football team. It rocks. It feels great. You guys should try it. So we take a birthday cake to Ishan's, and it's because I'm a Packers fan. It's green and yellow. We're not even like thinking about the OU game happening. So they are playing it at that Ishan's while I've got this green and yellow cake sitting in front of me. And then obviously the onside kick happens. Oregon goes and wins the game. And I'm a 10 or 11-year-old kid cheering for OSU my whole life. So I'm like cheering. They're like, why is this kid from Oregon sitting in Ishan's? Like what is happening right now?
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was honestly like my first memories of Oregon before, the cool uniforms and Phil Knight and Nike and all that stuff. So that was great. So the Oregon game in general, we got a little bit into it early. Players to watch. You got anybody that you're going to keep an eye on this week?
Yeah, I think there's well, let's be 100% honest. They are absolutely loaded, like top to bottom. Just about every position. There's not really a position that you look at it and you're like, they're loaded. They've got so many skill guys on the outside. One guy that really stuck out to me, his projected first-round draft pick is Kenyon Sadiq, number 18. He's listed as a tight end. I mean, he's an oversized wide receiver. The guy's like 6'3", 245 pounds, freak of nature. He's a matchup nightmare. So, that's somebody that I look for them to really utilize, especially against our linebackers, because he's a freak of nature. And then on the defensive side, Mateo Uyunglele, I think I got that one right. Linebacker for them. He had 10.5 sacks last season. He barely played in this last game. I think they played 70 guys against Montana State. They scored on every possession. They were just unbelievably efficient. And, they have a quarterback that's similar to Zane. He's on his third year, and this will be his real first year that this is his team. But he started at UCLA as a true freshman 5-star, had some struggles like everybody did at UCLA. And then he went to Oregon last year. He sat behind a guy that is as professional as it gets at the college level, watched how it operates, and I think it really helped him out. But you saw in this last game, I mean, they only had 3 penalties as a team in the first game. There's really not a whole lot when you look at that and you're like, oh, let's get after that. They're an unbelievably well-rounded team. This will be by far the best roster we play all season. But that's not a bad thing. I think a lot of people are like, oh no, like Oklahoma State's trying to get back. And these are the games that you want to look at and measure yourself against. And as an athlete, you want to go on the road, fly to Oregon. It's just you. That's it, right? You versus them. And I think we have a real opportunity to find out a lot about this team. Win or lose, we should get quite a few answers just from an athletic standpoint, like where we're at and what we need to do. So I'm excited. But yeah, those are the 2 guys that came straight to my mind whenever I watched them. I went back and watched their game against Montana State, and extremely impressive. Very, very fast. Like their whole team is fast. Even when Montana State had them out schemed, and obviously Montana State's not going to have the speed, but even when they had them out schemed and they put the ball in space, man, those holes closed fast. So it's going to be imperative for Oklahoma State to come out firing and keep them off balance.
Yeah, don't have a ton to add to that. Gundy's been very complimentary of the tight ends. He keeps saying they've got 2 of them. So
man, he's not wrong. Yeah.
A little bit more on Dante Moore, the quarterback. He's out of Michigan. He was the number 4 player overall in the 2023 class that made him the number 3 quarterback. Despite that, with the guys over him being Arch Manning and Nico Imaliava, who had a good year at Tennessee. Obviously, last year struggled against Utah this past week, and then Arch. Everybody knows Arch at this point. So pretty elite company that he's in there. And as you mentioned, him sitting last year after playing at UCLA, that was probably a good thing for him, probably, a tough thing to do for a guy that's been a star all his life and goes to Los Angeles and thinks that, it's just going to keep going this way. So, he threw for 213 and 3 touchdowns, pretty quick night against Montana State. And yeah, I think they're looking pretty good on that end.
Yeah. They don't have a running back like number 1 per se. They brought in a great running back from Tulane that I think they expect is going to be the number 1 guy, but there's just only so much you can learn about a game like that where literally everything went right. Their quarterback, I don't know if a hand got touched on him the whole game. Their line is huge and awesome. So yeah, I mean, that's what you would hope a top 5 team would do against an FCS team, and they did exactly that. I think I will say this, and this is a huge compliment to Coach Lanning. He somehow, I shouldn't say somehow, but he has this team playing hard at every level. They blocked 2 punts, and probably the highlight of the whole game was one of their down the field blocks by a wide receiver. Like that type of stuff, right? In an FCS game, Montana State, like he's got them dialed in, and that's really impressive to see in this day and age. And we're gonna roll it out there and see what happens. But it was pretty awesome to watch.
What about on the OSU side? You got any players that you're looking out for offensively and defensively?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the clear one is Zane, right? You want to see what he can do. But I think it's going to be imperative that guys make plays for him. You got to help a kid out, right? And so first thing I look at is getting Christian Fitzpatrick more involved. And then I also, I look at getting Freeman and Sam Jackson involved, and whether that be, in your fly sweeps, in your quick game and stuff like that, but getting the ball out, getting more width, because if we don't get any type of run game, we've literally got no chance. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is we're going to have to spread them out a little bit. I believe that they're not going to load up the box. They don't see any reason to do that. So it's going to be on us. Just block the man in front of you and do it violently. The offensive line was not near violent enough against UT Martin. You got to come off nasty. Got to start moving some guys. So that for me on offense is probably those guys. on the outside. They got to play big.
Yeah. My guy was going to be Gavin Freeman. That they seem to really try to get him in the ball in space. This past week, I think he had 6 targets, which tied Terrell Davis. I imagine they're going to be looking at Davis just because a lot of those deep balls went his way. I imagine with Gundy basically saying we've got to get 16 the ball more, they're going to be like, hey, maybe guard 16. So I think that Gavin Freeman, he's been like nothing but good for OSU pretty much in any of the games he's played, even going back to last year before he redshirted. So I think that's sort of where I'm looking at offensively. Defensively, it's probably going to have to be Brian McCoy again. I think Oklahoma State, if they're going to win this game, needs to get some pressure on. I'm not exactly sure where that comes from at this minute, but I think Brian McCoy's got to keep people in front of him and keep bringing them down and just see where let the cards fall where they may to a certain extent.
Yeah, because I think to your point, the place that I'm most excited about on our team is our defensive line. I mean, the edges and everything, right? And so you look at a guy like Wendell Gregory and things like that. If we're going to have any chance, you probably are going to need to win the turnover game by 2, probably at least. And so that's going to come from speeding up a young quarterback. That's going to come from strip sacks. That's going to come from disguising and things like that. That only happens if you're able to get after them. You have to be able to show pressure. And quite honestly, we need to be able to get pressure without having to bring 2 extra or those type of things because they've got way too many guys on the outside. So for me on the defense, it's Wendell Gregory. I want to see him against you got a first-round guy at tackle they have most likely, and so they're loaded at offensive line. So I'm interested to see. We all loved what we saw, but that was UT Martin, and no disrespect, that's UT Martin. I want to see flashes against guys that are going to be playing on Sundays because we truly believe, I know you and I both do, that Wendell Gregory has that opportunity. One question I did have, do you think, because we know that such a large portion of what we were planning on doing as a team, especially in the run game, was with Haas Haney, and I don't think they're really going to take that chance with Zane, right? They think maybe every now and then, but it's going to be get down or get out. What about a Sam Jackson package? And whether that means he actually hike it straight to him. We saw one play with it against UT Martin. Do you think maybe something even along those lines to kind of get the ball in some playmakers' hands in some space and see what could happen? He's a quarterback, obviously, a previous life, and he's incredible with the ball in his hand.
Yeah, so Gundy was asked about, hey, do you try to protect Zane a little bit more? And of course, he's not. He said no, that they've got to go play football. Like they can't be tiptoeing around. People get injured in random ways sometimes. Football, it's a violent game. They just got to go do it. With that being said, I don't think that I don't think Gundy's going to tell everybody like, yeah, we're just basically not doing quarterback run at this point because then nobody's going to do anything about it. So I think I wouldn't mind a little Sam Jackson Wildcat action or whatever you're putting back there. I thought it was interesting that they were going to have him throw a pass against UT Martin just in general. It's like, is that not something you'd save, or is that something that you're wanting teams to have to prepare for? So I certainly wouldn't mind that. He mentioned, Banks Bowen, he was a Tulsa commit out of Lawrence, Kansas. He mentioned Banks Bowen is going to go run with the 2s. Banks Bowen was number 2 on the depth chart this week, but I would really be interested if push comes to shove, what would happen. I sort of think it would be Sam Jackson. I just think he'd give the team the best shot to win. Would Sam Jackson want to do that? I imagine he's like, got NFL aspirations on his mind, and he probably has come to grips with the fact that that's not at quarterback. So, maybe that's something that he doesn't want to do. That's something that, he'd have to be asked. But I would, if push came to shove, I think I would personally be more comfortable with a guy who's played quarterback back there rather than, one of these freshmen. And Gunny's always been a little hesitant to play a true freshman, especially this early. I just don't think that, if something happened in this game, if his helmet came off, for instance, I'm just a little bit sort of wonder what Gunny would do, just because, you think back to last year, everybody and their mom was calling for Milwaukee Smith to get some playing time. Obviously needed the bowl streak to sort of end. It seemed like they were waiting, giving that last time that bowl streak and then keep his red shirt intact. But, throughout the year, he's just sort of saying like, well, he needs to, continue to learn the offense, yada, yada, yada. So, I think I'd be very surprised if something went awry, sort of that it wasn't Sam Jackson, but Gundy didn't allude to that at all this week.
Yep. No, I'm with you. It's kind of something I thought into my mind because we knew, especially with the offensive line that's struggling to kind of get their footing right game one. And we knew that Haas kind of making some of those extra plays. I was like, hey, just get an athlete, get his hands in space. Let's see what happens.
Absolutely. Keys to victory. You already said one of mine. You've got to win the turnover battle, and you've probably got to win it by more than one turnover. And that comes on both ends of the field. I think offensively, these guys need to, Zane needs to take care of the football. That being said, he also said, Gundy also said it. He's got to continue to be aggressive. So he's got to sort of straddle that line in Oregon all of a sudden, making his first start. But so that's sort of what I'm thinking as far as I gotta. Sorry, my fantasy football draft is about to get like 19 things are happening in my ear just now. But yeah, so I think that obviously on the offense can't put the ball on the ground, can't throw it to the other team, and then defensively, is it creating pressure that maybe confuses the quarterback a little bit, and he throws quick and it's picked off, and maybe a defensive touchdown. I'd love a defensive touchdown this time of year, but that's sort of my first key to victory is you got to win the turnover battle.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's a couple things when you look at a game like this. Number one, you brought it up. Most important, cannot lose the turnover battle. Number two, Coach Gundy talks about it a lot. It's more important than ever. Hidden yardage, right? Special teams can give up big returns, can't give up blocks, right? They blocked twice. They blocked 2 of them last week. And you need to win those yards, and then penalty yards. You cannot lose the penalty yard battle. You can't do that. We only had 5 in game 1. It's really good. They only had 3, so 2 clean teams. And then I think Coach Grantham, coming from the NFL, he has a ton of sub packages. He wants to keep running guys in and out, in and out, in and out. Coach Lanning knows that. They're going to try to go pace and space. They're going to try to ramp it up, keep our guys on the field so that they can dictate what they want to do. And so I think first down is going to be so important for our defense in either incompletions or, 2 yards on a run, right? You can't let them get to 2nd and 4, dictate the speed of the game. You keep putting pressure on that. That's when things get tough. So you got to really tackle well, and you've got to eliminate big first downs. And when you get your chances on 3rd down, you've got to get off the field. It's got to happen.
Yeah. In my second one, you sort of hit on earlier, and that's that they've got to find something to supplement the run game. I don't think that, the offensive line that struggled against UT Martin is all of a sudden going to have it figured out this week on the road at Oregon. So whether that's spreading people out, whether that's a little quick bubble passes or something to one of those slot guys, spread out, maybe find some creases in the middle. I just think that there's no way that you go into Oregon and win a football game off the back of a kid who's making his first college start. So he needs some sort of help back there. How that happens, I think it's a lot more easier said than done. I'm not exactly sure what that looks like, but they've got to figure something out in terms of the short, quick game that will hopefully open up, some shots downfield.
Yep, completely agree. I think you're going to see a whole lot more motion from the offense, a lot more misdirection, trying to get guys in advantageous situations. If there was one thing you saw in the Montana State game, and there's not much that Montana State can write home about, they have a very good wide receiver, a little fella at Montana State, and he was able to get free inside with some key matchups, make a guy miss. So to your point, a guy like Gavin Freeman or Sam Jackson, maybe you can find some of those little seams and take one. But that it's going to be hard sledding. I mean, it's going to be hard press for this offense to really move the ball consistently against a defense like this.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think, something that you mentioned special teams wise and finding this hidden yardage, I think it actually benefits Oklahoma State that Oregon blocked 2 kicks, because that's going to be driven into their skulls this week. So that's hopefully going to go well. Uni predictions. I think John Laxative asked a little bit of a question. We just found out that Oregon's going all green. What do you think Oklahoma State's going to look like on Saturday?
Yeah, I think we're going to go white, black with cursive Cowboys. I thought maybe we might throw some orange in there, but I feel pretty good about white, black, cursive Cowboy.
I think I'm on a similar. I think it's going to be cursive Cowboy for sure. I think that's just the cleanest look. They're on CBS, so that's probably something that they're going to want to put out there. I sort of think because they're on CBS, they'll want to rock a little bit of orange. So I think I'm going to go orange, white, orange, and probably the orange numbers on that. So I think that's where I'm leaning. No Southwell here to make his pick. I'm sure it would have been right. So
I know he's so good at it.
That's a little bit tragic. All right, we move to questions in the chamber. As we mentioned at the top, the link to PFP Plus subscriptions, 25% off, will be in the description of this episode. We'll start with this one, which is sort of looking ahead to the game. That's Cowgirl for Life says, "Call me crazy," and then in parentheses she put, "might be true, but I believe we pull off the big upset if Flores stays calm and the play calling is good." So my question is, win or lose, what gives you the most optimism for the Pokes going into the Oregon game?
Well, I like that you're crazy optimistic. You wouldn't be a fan if you weren't. So don't be ashamed of that. I think the thing that gives me the most optimism is the defense. I think can give us a chance. I think the defense has the athletes, if they don't hurt themselves, to give us a chance. Last year that couldn't have been said, but I do believe. From an athletic standpoint, I don't think it's just going to be like, oh my gosh, like we can't stop anything. So I think for me, it's the defense that gives me the most hope that, hey, if you can come up with a couple turnovers, get to the quarterback a little bit, we might be able to hang around.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was leaning to. Specifically, the pass rush. Not that it's going to be easy against Oregon, but that's sort of, I think a bright spot of what we saw last Thursday. Obviously, that secondary is pretty experienced. A lot of those guys have played quite a bit of football back there. So if you can mesh a pass rush with, some experienced defensive backs, hopefully that then leads to what we talked about, those turnovers. We'll move on to Glory Cowboys question. He says, "What do you want to see from the OSU O-line/D line against Oregon to have confidence for the rest of the season that OSU will win 7 to 8 games?"
Yeah, I think from the O-line, obviously just looking for progression from 1 to 2, right? And then we have a bye week after this, and then you've got again, right? So, yeah, I think especially for these first 4, 5 games, you're looking to see progression. So you want to see a couple creases, right? You want to see some things. You want to see some guys getting to that next level, blocking the man in front of you and giving the running back an opportunity. This is Oregon, right? So let's have a realistic expectation of what that looks like. But if you're seeing it at every now and then against a team like Oregon, that's clearly a progression. I think one of those things when you go back and look at the UT Martin game, it wasn't near as bad as it felt when you go back and watch it. There was a guy here, a guy there, or, maybe it was blocked up, but you just didn't push like you should have. I think those are the type of things that you're looking a difference for. And then from the D line, you brought it up. I want to see a couple guys get free. I want to see a couple guys wreak havoc. Bend, get on that edge. We've got athletes. So you see, maybe Kyron Durhan will now get an opportunity that he didn't get. And then you have Wendell Gregory, and you got athletes now that we need to see get after them. And so I don't think 7 or 8 is out of the question yet, because we really haven't seen what the offense can do with Flores. So I don't think that's misguided. I think that's still within reason.
Yeah, for the offensive line, I'm not unless they go out there and are all of a sudden opening holes and stuff up. I'm not sure that I'm gonna if they have a bad game. I'm not sure I'm gonna take away too much from this, just because they didn't have the greatest game against UT Martin. And like we mentioned, it's not going to just all of a sudden fix itself while you're traveling to Oregon this week. So I think that'll sort of be a work in progress throughout the year. I'm not sure that there's maybe 1 or 2 things, unless things are just going well. Oklahoma State's running for 4.5 yards a carry. Then all of a sudden I'll feel great about that offensive line moving forward. For the defensive line, similarly, want to see some pressure on the quarterback, whether that be hurries or sacks, getting him down. And I would just, again, because last year scarred me, want to see some good run fits. Just
absolutely.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 occasions last year where Oklahoma State gave up 6 or more yards per carry to a team. It's obviously going to be tough to keep Oregon, from running the football. But if Oklahoma State could be on the lower end, if that could be on the lower end of, if they could be on the 5s, I'd at least be like, okay, last year's team would have given up 12 yards a carry on this.
Absolutely.
So, so if they could hang around the 5 number, I think I'd feel good about that. Anything lower than that, that's certainly all gravy. We'll move on to Cowboy Farm. It's spelled PHARM, not the traditional farm. The surprising thing to me about the UT Martin game was the skew toward run plays. 42 rushes, 30 passes. Given Meacham's reputation as pass happy, what prevented adjustment to the more pass forward approach with floors? And what keys are you looking for to see if the playbook has been adjusted for Oregon?
I think the main thing when you're looking at a game like that is, number one, you have no backup realistically. So you're gonna take out the whole run game or the whole. You want to eliminate as much risk as you can as your quarterback taking a big hit.
Yeah,
right?
you certainly didn't want to lose your only two quarterbacks against UT Martin.
Exactly. So I think that's a big reason. Number two, yes, Coach Meacham comes from some things that happened at TCU with a lot of pass happy, quick game. But you got to remember, Coach Meacham also comes from the Coach Gundy tree that is run first, be as balanced as possible. And I think that's what Coach Gundy wants to get back to, is being able to run first and do that. So I do think if Coach could pick, I think both, honestly, if both coaches could pick, it'd be run to set up the pass and take big chunks at a time and utilize some quick game. Now, I don't think it'll be quite that heavy because I don't think we're going to have that much success. So you can't run it 42 times. But I think for me going into this game, the biggest things I'm looking for in adjustments to Oregon is going to be a whole lot more motion, more quick game, probably some screen game, things like that to get the ball out of Floor's hands early, maybe get him some off platform, some rolling right, some boots, some things like that to get him out and have a whole quick game package to get it out of his hands and get things rolling. So that's kind of what I'm looking for from a progressive standpoint from the offense.
Yeah, and as far as the part where maybe a lot didn't change in that UT Martin game, that's sort of something that Gundy hit on whenever I asked him earlier this week about the staff needing to set Zane up in the best position possible. So I think everybody was sort of aware that Zane maybe didn't necessarily have his offense exactly going in that game, but it got to a point where you don't want to lose both of your quarterbacks to an FCS opponent. So I think there was a certain time in that game where Oklahoma State was just looking to get out of there and sort of take what they got.
Absolutely.
All right, we move on to Pokes 2135. He said, could Grantham's aggressive style maybe rattle Dante Moore if we need a few hits on him? Offensively, it will be difficult, but I'm holding out hope our defensive line can make some plays and get after the QB. That's pretty much exactly what we've been talking about for a little bit now. Anything else to add to that?
No, I think that's why I completely agree, right? We've talked pretty extensively about that, but I think that's going to be even Coach Grantham likes to bring some exotic blitzes. He likes to be very aggressive. Can't do that if you don't get off the field, and you can't do that if you allow them to play with great pace. So it's really important that if the line and Coach Grantham's going to be able to dial up some of the things that he wants to from a disguise standpoint, that you get some stops on second down, get some incompletions, allow some substitutions, some negative plays, things like that. So don't really have anything else to add, but that is going to be crucial to any type of success we have.
Yeah, both Todd Grantham and Dan Lanning, both somewhat Nick Saban pupils. Grantham was with Saban back in the Michigan State days, the days that not a ton of people nowadays remember about Nick Saban's career. I believe he was associate head coach for Saban. So that's a little bit of fun. I wonder how much of that is similar. I wonder how much terminology or whatever. I wonder if they're preaching the same thing much of. So we will move on to OSU_Dan. He says, how close points wise do the Pokes need to keep it in order for Oklahoma State fans to carry some excitement for the rest of the season? So I think it was 28.5 was the last time I checked the line. About how close are you hoping the Pokes can sort of hang around?
I mean, honestly, I think I hate saying this because this is not the mentality you should have. But I think as a fan, if you keep it within 2 scores and you're battling and you're like, and you find yourself in the game like, hey, if we can just get 1 turnover, we can get this to a 1-score game. And then who knows, right? I think for me, that's kind of as a fan. Now, as a player and as a coach, I would never have that mentality. But I think as a fan, if you're able to do that and give yourself an opportunity, I think you should feel really good about the progression of this team moving forward and what that could mean for the season.
Yeah, I was going to say 10-14 feels all right. But even if it's like a 21, but it's like it was competitive throughout, and maybe with like 3 minutes to go, Oregon adds another one. Like I think I still feel all right about that. I think the only way I come out feeling bad about this as if it's another UCF situation or K-State that one year they went up and lost 48-0. Like some sort of life would be great to see for me. Well, what that looks like on the scoreboard, I'm not exactly sure, but I think you're about right, about 2 scores. Last question here is from Metro Boonin, not Boomin, Boone in. Do you expect the game plan to be ball control offense and lean on our defense to help slow the game down and limit overall possessions? Or do we think Meacham will be allowed to open it up and throw the kitchen sink to try and steal one?
I've kind of gone back and forth on this, because when Coach Gundy talked about, hey, he's got to play, got to go out there, that's the game of football, kind of made me believe, hey, let's just let it rip. If we lose by 30, who cares? But I do think that it is imperative, and we're definitely going to try to get a run game. And if we are able to show any semblance of a run game, I do think that we're going to kind of try to limit it a little bit, let the defense get some rest, and then we'll take our shots. I personally don't expect it on offense to be like let's fire it up, get out 4 wide and let Zane just stand back there and let it rip. So I think as much as possible, I'm kind of along the lines here with Metro Boone. I think if Coach Gundy had his way, it would be, hey, slow it down a little bit. Let's have some long methodical drives. We're able to get 3, 4, 5 yards of carry, some quick game, take our chunk shots, and then see what happens.
Yeah, I think it sort of depends on, can OSU run the ball to control possession? Because that's obviously going to be a big question mark. And then be like, if. Yeah, and then if you're losing, you're not going to be running the ball so much. So I think a little bit of that is just sort of dependent on the game flow in general. I think in a perfect world, if Oklahoma State was able to run the ball, I do think they'd try to control possession a little bit and sort of wait out Oregon and at least keep it close. But I'm just not sure that they'll be able to do that. So I wonder at what point the flip or the switch sort of flips and Oklahoma State's like, okay, we've got to start getting aggressive offensively. And then sort of who knows what happens, because all of a sudden now a lot of times on the clock, and that's whenever things can get a little uneven, I guess, on the scoreboard if things are really going wrong for Oklahoma State. So
yeah, I think, you want to limit Zane, especially early on, to not getting behind the sticks and forcing and turnovers and all these things, right? See, I think that you're going to have to do that to the best of your ability. I was thinking about back, the last several times where we've had some injury issues, coach has definitely gone the conservative route. My mind goes back to like when we went to Boise State and like we just prayed and then Jalen Warren fell into our laps and we're like, oh, okay, that happened. That works. And obviously at some portions last year and the year before, he has not in a while gone the other way of like super aggressive. Hey, we lose by 45, we lose by 4. Who cares, right? I think whenever I think back, I think like Corn Dog when we played Kyler in OU, and it was like he let that man just sit back there and rip it. Now OU's defense was terrible, and we had a lot of guys on the outside, but that was like, hey, who cares? We lose, but we went down to a 2-point conversion and probably should have beat OU. I don't see that happening. I think we're going to try everything we can to slow it down.
Yeah, that 2018 game was awesome in a lot of aspects. Gundy has the moniker of getting tight in Bedlam, and that one was like everything but. It was like
exactly.
Tyron Johnson was jumping over dudes, throwing up the X. I think Justice Hill got hurt that game. That was sort of like the start of the Chuba Hubbard era, sort of.
Yeah.
Man, what an awesome game that in the whole. And I know that you're a big Corn Dog guy. I'm a big Corn Dog guy. We all love Corn Dog, but Corn Dog would he would be like if they complete that 2-point conversion and then you still had like 3 minutes on the clock, and I'm not sure that.
Let's not get lost in the details.
Yeah, but if Corn Dog somehow wins that game, his whole year is looked at so much differently.
Man, he threw that dirt ball. I just couldn't believe it because it was open. Yeah. He just put it like on his front shoulder.
Could have chest passed it to him.
Oh my goodness!
Pushed it at him.
Yeah. No, okay, we don't need to.
Yeah, that was brutal. That's a brutal way to go into the Oregon game. Thank you. That's all we got. A lot of questions in the chamber. We'll continue to answer those as the year goes on. But yeah, looking forward to it. I head out to Oregon on Friday. We'll probably reconvene on either Sunday night or Monday, sort of depending on when I get back. But yeah, thank you guys for listening to the Reload podcast. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. And then, hopefully this episode gets out and then hopefully Justin is back soon to babysit us. So
and hopefully it's on Spotify.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.